the most wild thing, and it just became clear as the show went on that Douglas Murray came to do anything but debate me. Like, that was the theme of the entire show. He was there to do every single thing except have an exchange of ideas with me.
Seemingly, this is the hottest topic in politics as of right now, or I guess I should say as of like 24, 48 hours ago. Dave Smith debated Douglas Murray. Now, the issue with this debate is that it basically really didn't even happen. It was devolved into, very quickly, I would add, semantics argument, seemingly a struggle session with a lot of the internet and social media divided on who technically won. Now, I think Dave Smith has said it best when he said basically that he didn't really win. It was more that Douglas Murray had lost. And because it was so apparent and so obvious that this was devolving into semantic arguments very quickly with very little actual kind of substance being spoken about, I agree with Dave Smith. And if you haven't watched this episode, now I don't blame you, they are 3-hour-long episodes, definitely catch some of these clips because all in all, Douglas Murray resorted to COVID-level argumentation about trusting the experts and basically resorting to an argument that revolved around ethos, which is, credibility of the arguments. And that basically because Dave Smith's not been to certain places, and again, when it comes to Israel and the Middle East, these things always get super contentious. But here's Dave Smith on his thoughts afterwards and how he thought the debate went.
I left there with the feeling, I would say even a half hour in to the show, I think the reaction that we're getting, I've had a lot of debates where the reaction is overwhelmingly that I won the debate. In this particular case, it's just that he lost it. Like, it wasn't even that I beat him in the debate. He started out with a 40-minute struggle session for Joe Rogan that just contained probably the longest stretched logical fallacy I've ever seen anyone open a debate with. Just a naked appeal to authority, completely unclear with what he was saying. He came in, so in this struggle session with Joe Rogan, I couldn't make this up. This is barely before I presented any thought or argument or opinion. I think it was before that. He comes in with this long that is an appeal to authority, an appeal to expertise. You're having these non-experts talk about issues that experts should talk about. And I'm not saying they should be censored, and I'm not saying they shouldn't talk about it, but they're talking about it and they're acting like they're experts. How are they acting like they're experts? Because they're talking about it. And when they're talking about it, it was just the most ridiculous argument, the most pompous, elitist, but essentially telling the host of the show and the entire audience, your opinion doesn't matter. Like, it was just a strategy to me that was like, you want to make everyone think you're a pompous asshole? It was wild. In there, sandwiched in this appeal to expertise, he trashes Daryl Cooper and Ian Carroll, whose names he doesn't even know, and admits that he's never consumed any of their material before. Yet he's trashing them and then claiming that you can only talk about these issues if you have expertise. Then when he's asked, does he have expertise? He goes, well, in some things. Do you talk about things you don't have expertise in? Yeah, all the time I talk about things I don't have expertise in. Okay, well, why can you do that? Oh, you're not even understanding my point. It was just like the most wild thing. And it just became clear as the show went on that Douglas Murray came to do anything but debate me. Like, that was the theme of the entire show. He was there to do every single thing except have an exchange of ideas with me. Everything. It was either I'm going to go on, these long appeal to authority, or I'm going to play ridiculous semantics games with you. Like when I say we're at war, you'll say we at war, and you're not at war. Your military is having an action, and you're not. And just contradicting himself constantly. The things he, like, instead of ever taking on my argument, he would think it was a big blow to be like, you haven't been there. You haven't been there. You don't have expertise. You don't. It's so bizarre because it's like, this would be, look, I'm not saying I would agree with it, but at least it would make sense if Douglas Murray refused to debate me and then made a video about why he wouldn't debate me. And in the video, he said, because he doesn't have expertise and because he hasn't been there and because, okay. But once you agree to the debate, You can't just say, I have expertise and you don't have expertise. You can't spend 40 minutes on that. It's like, demonstrate it, motherfucker. If you've been there and that gives you some greater insight, then demonstrate that and win the argument and counter what I'm saying. He would never, I mean, the entire thing, it was straw man. He would argue against what other people are saying. You know, if I said, oh, the NED and the USAID poured $100 million into the Maidan protests in 2014, he'd go, you know, sometimes libertarians speak as if everything that happens in the world is done by America, and really there are no other actors and nobody else has agency. And I'm like, what? No, all the people there have agency. Also, the U.S. poured $100 million into a street putsch that overthrew a democratically elected government. Like, what? No matter who I'd say, dude, his big like blows that he tried to land were, I'm not an expert, but I present myself as an expert. And then I said, I don't claim to be an expert. And he said, see, that's the problem. I haven't been there. I haven't been to Israel. So therefore, well, I don't know. Can't comment on it. And then at the end, what I literally cited that the supreme commander of the NATO forces and the 4-star general Wesley Clark said that the plans to overthrow 7 different governments came from Paul Wolfowitz. And he said, I shouldn't say Paul Wolfowitz because that'll make people hate Jews or something like that. I can't mention the deputy defense secretary. Anyway, I don't know. You could tell me what you thought of it, but it was I don't really think I particularly won the debate. I think he just showed up trying to do anything he could not to debate. It was transparent. People could see through it. It was smug and condescending. And that's why the reaction is what it is.
Now, what's hilarious with this, too, is the fact that the Grok analysis, the AI analysis of what this debate was about, and I'll put it on screen, is that this debate centered around the topic of trusting the experts. And obviously, because of exactly how Dave just had described it, it was very, very foggy and muddy about what was even happening during that debate. It was just devolving very quickly. And I even agree with Dave Smith. It would have been more respectable had Murray just basically kind of declined it and gave the reasons why, rather than have this kind of fiasco, which has now since taken the internet by storm. Now, I would also add in there as well, we have this take here from Ian Carroll. And Ian Carroll says, you know, he's not seen a clip where Murray's shared evidence or disputed a fact with anything other than ad hominem in credentialism, which I will say too, I really didn't see any strong forward argument from Murray from anything that I saw throughout there either. Now, someone can correct me in the comments if they believe otherwise, but I'm here. I am siding with the usual guys. I am biased, obviously, but there with Ian Carroll as well, it was a very, very unbearable listen. Now, Dave Smith did it best when he eloquently he mocked the accent, but that seemingly was the vibe I got as well, which is, how dare a rabble as I, such a peasant such as me, would dare to have an opinion on something if I wasn't specifically accredited by some institution that said I'm a blue check verified expert on said topic. And it was a very common trend and theme that we got over and over and over again, and it was very circular. But also, let me add this in here too. Also have a take from Cenk Uygur, which again, I don't think I've ever agreed with Cenk Uygur on anything, but here is his take. He says the most unbearable part of Douglas Murray is his bullshit pretension that he's an authority figure. Then he goes on to say that Dave Smith definitely knows more about the Gaza conflict than Murray. And he says Murray is pure Israeli propaganda and that he's not even trying to be objective. And then he ends by saying Dave is a comic, but Murray is a joke. And I do think that's pretty funny. Obviously, let the internet decide, let the unfettered internet decide who won the debate. Let it spread out amongst people where you get a bunch more of these clips kind of cut up. And again, there were portions of this, obviously, with Martyr Made, which I believe his real name is Daryl Morey. A lot of contention's been following him ever since he was on Rogan in the first place. Now, I think it actually started when he had an appearance on Tucker Carlson, which then I think a few days later, maybe a couple weeks later, turned into an appearance on Rogan. People have been screaming at the top of their lungs, desperate for that kind of narrative to not ever grow out of its shell. And what I mean by that is we're getting people in this space who are nitpicking at the kind of the truths and the beliefs that we have essentially ordained since post-World War II, and what maybe we got wrong with that, or what maybe was the more correct take to have. And like, as always, history is written by the victors. And I think in there comes a grain of salt in which, when you do digest information that you are getting from said events, you also have to question that maybe you're not getting the whole story. And just like that, when you say, I'm just asking questions, I've now uttered a very anti-Semitic statement, which, obviously is a joke. But again, people are screaming at the top of their lungs from all those people. When you say just asking questions, I know what that means, right? As if to say anyone who says that is saying code for they hate Jewish people, which I think is just laughable. And I think the longer that this continues to go on when it relates to Israel, the Middle East, World War II, all of those things revolve around it. It's the obvious Streisand effect. When you can tell there is a concerted effort from multiple people, all seemingly who have the same kind of opinions that are aligned together, and they act as a force together, demanding that people stop asking questions about specific topics. Like I just said, the Streisand effect. More people are going to want to know exactly what was being spoken about, and they're going to want to know more about it. I think it was a fiasco in whole, but definitely let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. I'd like to know. I would imagine most people by now have at least seen clips of this debate. Definitely let me know what your thoughts are. And I would also like to add, too, definitely follow me and Worrell at the Jar Openers podcast. We are doing and moving all of our live stream ventures with that podcast and show to its own channel. You can find it at the Jar Openers podcast. I will put that in the description below. And again, thank you very much for making it this far in the video. Definitely leave a like if you enjoyed it. Share it with your friends, especially if you think I'm some anti-Semitic crazy white guy. I'll take the negative engagement too. But thank you very much. Christ is King, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.